Welcome to Homes Room. Just like Homeroom, we start off our day getting together with our homies, swapping stories, even a little kiss and tell action. This podcast contains language not suitable for younger listeners, topics about sex and mental health. Discretion is advised. Our views are our own. Let class begin. 5 albums, 15,000 plays all the time, recording their own music on everything that they can, doing it in sometimes unconventional ways, music videos, photo shoots, traveling like a true artist. This is exactly what Homes Room is about. Not letting anything or anyone stand in the way of creating, just going out there and getting it done. I got my boy Kenzi here, ready to go, ready to record. First run, probably one of the most important people to have on here, simply because we're using the man's music for our theme. Like, how can you get much more legit, squared up than that?
It sounds good too.
Good. All right.
It's great, man. Well, thank you for having me. This is really cool. So this is your first episode for real?
Yeah.
Oh, that's crazy, man.
Well,
that's awesome.
0.15. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, first things first, tell us where that creative bug bit you, man.
Yeah, that's a great question, man. I don't know. I mean, I did not know I was going to make music until probably my teen years. But as a kid, I did a lot of singing because my mom was a singer. So I have to give her credit, and she'll be happy to hear that too. But I saw a band, the Get Up Kids, which is from Kansas City and Lawrence. And I saw them, and that kind of changed me. That was my spark moment where I was like, this is what I need to do. And so then I just started learning guitar from my friend John Marzette. And that was cool. And I joined kind of a band whenever I was like 17. I didn't tell anybody about it. It was super secretive. And then when I was like 19 or 20, I just decided to start singing, which nobody knew I could do either. Not even my family. And so, yeah, which is interesting. But so I played my very first show was technically in California on the coast, some country bar. It was terrible. I told the guy I had like 30 minutes of music, and he was like, can you play for 3 hours? And I was like, no. And he was like, well, I'll pay you twice as much if you do. And I was like, deal. If you're giving me money, I'll do whatever you want.
Okay.
So, yeah. So that was interesting. And then
that's good.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was interesting. Came back to Lawrence, thank goodness. And, a lot of music in Lawrence, as you know, in Kansas City. And I just had great friends that helped me, get shows and start doing what I was doing, which at the time I had no idea what the heck I was doing, but it turned into some really awesome stuff.
Homes Room is brought to you by Anchor. Anchor by Spotify is a total package podcast tool, from getting started to distribution, in-app editing, and much more. They even help you monetize your podcast. All of that for free. With a web and mobile-based app, recording anywhere on anything is a breeze. Get your voice heard with Anchor by Spotify. Yeah, that's one of the things. I didn't know that you got the music from your mom. I did not know that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, she's a singer. My mom was a choir singer growing up in Kansas City. And then she, somewhere in her 40s, started joining bands, and so now she has like kind of a Evanescence style band, which is really intriguing for me. So yeah, she's kind of in a metal band, which is badass.
I like that. That's one of those like, I would say, that's a stark contrast from the kind of music that you make, which, for the record, like, how do you classify your music? I vibe with it. It's my kind of music, but how do you classify it?
Yeah, I think that's always hard for an artist or whatever you want to call yourself to do, but I like dabbling in a lot of different stuff. Whenever I first started, I wanted to make kind of folky, dirty country or something. I don't really know. I wanted to be like Nick Drake or like a singer-songwriter like the Shins or something, and I'm not really sure if I pulled that off, but later I got really into production. I mean, I've always loved hip hop, and I liked that, and I wanted to make something with a bigger beat. I was kind of tired of the acoustic guitar, so I started learning how to produce on my phone, and then I moved to the computer and bigger things, better things. And I liked, I don't know, I always wanted to be like work with hip hop artists, but I didn't know any hip hop artists. So I was like, well, I'll just sing over really cool beats and that'll work hopefully. So now it's kind of vibey, almost bedroom pop or something. I don't know. People will figure it out, but I still
Yeah,
grab that
yeah.
guitar, I love them both.
Yeah, I will say that your music beats, and I know this from the subs in my car rolling around. Quite a few days, in the summer coming where tops down, doors off, and this Jeep
That's
is going to
sick.
be bumping some Kenzie beats because
I
they're
love
they're
that, man.
legit. So,
I'm gonna have to see this Jeep
um,
too.
it's ridiculous. It's one of those things like, this is unrelated to anything we're talking about, but
Oh,
I
whatever.
had I had an idea. I was like, man, I want a Jeep. I want a Jeep. And I was like, the new Gladiator had just come out, and I was like, man, I want one. I want one. So I was like, hey, Courtney, like, yo, we can get a new Gladiator. And she was like, yeah, let's look at him. And then she saw the price tag, and I like kind of shanghaied her because I had already known how much it was. So I was just like, yo, but since that's really expensive, we can look at a used Jeep 4-door, which is kind of the same thing, but a little bit different. And she was like, how much are those? And I told her, and of course she was like, yo, like that's so
Yeah.
much more reasonable. We can do that. I think it would be cool. And then I
Man,
somehow found the exact color, exact style, soft top, because whatever is
yeah.
good. So
That's smart, man. I'm gonna
yeah,
steal that
Jeep
move.
Jeep came out differently than I was expecting. Do it. So
Yeah.
ladies out there, if your dude tries to pull a sly one, you can either go with it and enjoy it with them, or you could be like, hey, you trying to pull that Holmes move, and I'm not here
Yeah,
for it.
exactly, exactly.
Um,
Courtney can't hear this
so
podcast.
yeah, right. I know, right. So getting back on topic, when you look at all the stuff that you accomplished, uh, does it hit you that like you could be living in over like 10,000 people's mind with your words?
No, that's a pretty cool way to think about it. I never thought about it that way, because it's hard being like a small artist, but you have people listening and you have a lot of friends who listen. But something that I had to like work on to learn to appreciate, because you always have like these wide eyes, especially in your early 20s. You're just like, oh my God, I'm gonna be famous and all that stuff. And then you still always have that.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
something I appreciate more is, when friends call me and they're just like, man, I've been listening to your song like all weekend, or like this one is my jam. I always listen to it. I'm like, really? Like that's like okay. But I appreciate that, man. It's cool because I've just learned to appreciate, like, if you can make anything and it is in someone's life, if it helps them inspires them, helps them get through the day or gets them pumped up or whatever it may be, like that's really the goal. That's kind of what you're making music for at its root, at least for me, a part of the root. So I love that, man. And I love, people have told me some stories, and there's a bunch of people I don't know that listen to my music, and I would love to talk to them. That would be really interesting. But I'd love for more people to listen to it, obviously. But I love the connections I've made, and it is cool. It's just cool, like that music I made, some of it 10 years ago. Let's go with less. Is still being listened to and resonates with people. That's like really cool and badass, if we can say badass on this.
Yeah, absolutely. Whatever the fuck you want. I think it's interesting that you say that because, like, as a and as a writer, it's kind of the same thing. I always think it's wild that like characters that I create, like my favorite question to ask people is, who's your favorite character? Because everybody identifies with a different character, and for me, it's like every time that somebody gives me like, oh, I love this person because of XYZ, it's like, I wonder, like when I wrote that character, like I gave birth to a person, I guess, in a way, but I never expected somebody to be like, yo, I love that thing. So, I wonder if that's kind of like the same thing for music where like, you are appreciative of it being appreciated, and it doesn't matter how you receive it, whether it's a groove in the
Yeah.
morning or, rolling around in the afternoon, got off work, or if it's like, you're in the throes of something real tough and real hard and you just like, put it on and like, it just soothes your soul. And I think that
Yeah.
that's,
Yeah,
ultimately
man.
about the creative space in general.
Totally, totally. And I mean, I have your book. It's sitting like 2 feet away from me. So it's like, I, you know, you're totally right, man. It's the coolest feeling in the world. Just to make anything. I mean, you're like a super creative, like hands-on guy too. Used to change my brakes. So like, it's like, it's even doing stuff like that is cool. Like if you help somebody fix their car and they get to roll around, like that's a
Yeah.
cool feeling. You just, I don't know, something about creativity and being connected with another person through creativity is really, really cool. Even if it's food, if it's mechanics, if it's drawing, whatever it may be, it's cool. It has a unique feeling and you feel connected to that person, which is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that gets me is like, when you talk about creative space, like that's kind of what, Homes Room was born out of is like we we want to give people the opportunity to talk. We want to give people the opportunity to, just be and explain like, yo, I'm creative, but also I'm a human and I want to support people. And the thread that like ties us all is like that
Mm.
creative energy. So, like we've known each other for a while and somehow we've always managed to click on, this art thing. Like, I don't know what it is, why, but like, what do you get when you talk to other artists? Like, how does that vibe with you? Does that like inspire you, pump you up? What happens?
Yeah, for sure, man. Actually, I found it's really important to me because I live I live in Bend, Oregon now, and I love Bend where I live. But I do miss the music in Lawrence. I miss the creativity and the people, and I miss sitting, at a restaurant or a bar or a coffee shop and just talking music. And whenever I visited, I don't remember when, but people would like stop me and they're like, "Hey, are you still making music?" And I was like, wow, like this happened like 25 times. Like everybody just identified me as that. And I was like, this is really cool. I kind of miss that. And I miss that feeling. And I miss just sitting for hours talking about creative stuff. Like I love that. So you got to find those people. I love those people, man. I mean, that's why you and I click so much because we can just be like, oh, what are you working on? Like, oh, you got some art. Okay, cool. You're spray painting stuff. Like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
cool. Like,
yeah,
what else are you working on? Like, oh, let's just dive in,
yeah.
because it's just like a part of who we are. And whenever you don't talk about that, you're like, what else do we do here? So, yeah, I love it, man.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that's one of the things, like you hit it, like it's part of who you are. And I think that that's one of those things that gets me too. It's like, I think that a lot of people in the creative space, like they feel, defeated because people aren't listening, people aren't watching, people aren't seeing their work for what it is. But, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like I have that problem too with, like trying to sell books, trying to get people to read my writing, whatever it is. But like at the end of the day, I think we all have to remind ourselves like, yo, man, like we are these people. We are like our creativity, our art, our whatever. That's not just something we do. That's something that we are.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I love hearing that because that's been on my mind a lot too, because what happens whenever you get a little bit of attention, 5 people read your book or whatever, is you're like, oh, I want more of that attention.
Mm-hmm.
And with music, there was a time whenever there was a decent amount in my life, a decent amount of attention, I felt like. And that can definitely like ruin everything you're doing. You start making songs, you're like, oh, I hope big crowds like this song. And you're like, what are you talking about, man? So, but at the end of the day, dude, what I love about making music now is like I make music in my room, anywhere I can. And I'm by myself. Like I have to like doing this. I have to enjoy the song no matter
Yeah.
what and what I'm making. And sometimes you make crap, but you got to enjoy the process because at the end of the day, it's you just, working on your craft and having fun. Right. And if you lose that, you lose so much. And the attention's great, but it should not be the reason you do it, like you said. So that's awesome, man. So are you working on more books?
I am actually, I don't know who's doing the interview over here, but, yeah, I'm I'm working
I'm
on
just waiting.
I'm working on the third book in the Hero Remain series is done. It is I'm just waiting on an artist. Got to try and find somebody that can draw the art that I need and is dependable. So if you know anybody, if anybody listening is an artist and wants to try and participate, I don't need much. I just need an artist. But I'm working right now. The new book is called 10 Hearts, and it is kind of like a little it's probably the first time I've written myself as a character. You know, the guy is me almost
Mm.
100%. And he's sarcastic, he's witty, he's kind of an asshole to most people because he's just not trusting because of the way that, you know, he just is. But he still clicks with certain people that are down, that just have that spark about him. He still vibes with them. And, you know, that I think
Mm.
I gotta get to a place where I can like write that because it's me. I keep having to distance myself from it. You know, you've read the first book, so like, you know, Mark is a guy that lived in my head for, you know, damn near 7 years. And his voice was like super strong. Writing him, creating him, you know, the voices of his
Mm.
friends, his family, all the people that he was around, like that guy was part of my brain for so long that like I have to like I thought it was going to be a hard transition, but as soon as I created Dalton Glass, who is, you know, like my main character, who's me, it was like Mark got quiet and I didn't hear him anymore. I just heard Dalton, and because his voice is my voice, it was a little
Huh.
weird. I have to try and keep like pushing it away.
Yeah, that's interesting because how do you feel about writing? Because like part of music, you're kind of like trying to be really well. You never know what you're trying to do, but you hope that you kind of open up a little bit and put a little bit of what you're going through in the song. You know, you can make songs about anything you want, but you know, you do want to try to put a little bit of yourself. If you're going through a tough time, put it in there. A good time, put it in there. How do you feel about like opening up in a book and a character is like a reflection of you? Because that's similar to music. I feel it's like, hey, this is me. This is what I'm going through. I hope you're cool with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things that like I think is what I'm dealing with. I wrote a blog post about it, and I'm probably going to beat this to death on this podcast. But like, I was my writing has always been like looking through a window, never a reflection of myself. Like the characters I create, you know, even from a young kid, were always people that like I saw on TV, and like I was like, that's
Mm,
badass. Like I'm gonna write somebody like that. Or, you know, like in the case of Mark, you know, he's kind of adult in my opinion. He's not very smart, so like that's not me. But like, you know,
mm,
whatever. But writing Dalton and writing myself and putting, you know, tragic events that happened in my life into a story is sometimes freeing, I guess. And like that's the journey, right? As your art is supposed to free
mm.
you a little bit, but it's still like it's kind of scary sometimes, man. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, it is scary. It feels weird. That's why with music you can kind of cover it up, so that's nice.
Yeah, yeah,
But it is scary. But I feel like that's kind of a. I've been just reading and studying, and I feel like that's kind of the territory you want to dip into. I don't like being like, oh, woe is me. Oh, look at this
yeah.
terrible thing that happened to me. But telling your story is not bad. I think a lot of people can empathize and hear that and get through their day through it. So it's like I think it's what you should try to do in your creativity right now.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of those things. Like, I think the way that music works is like you bleed onto a track, and people feel that when you're bleeding onto a page, and you're like, and you know, there's quite a bit of Hero Remain that like I feel like I bled myself into in certain ways, and I think that, you know, for somebody to pick that book up and, you know, feel the loss or feel the camaraderie or feel the, you know, like characters pulling away from each other or pulling towards each other, like that's me bleeding on a page. And I think I have to give more space to, you know, that feeling becoming, you know, a good thing, not like, oh man, this is me put myself out there and
Mm,
writing myself in this way. Like I think that's kind of what it is. So like I got to take a little bit of your vibe and, you know, like your mentality and try and spin that into how I'm writing. But now we know a little
yeah.
bit about, you know, how you started. What's going on now, man? Like what you got anything in the work?
Yeah, man. I mean, so yeah, it's funny. The pandemic was fun, and I worked in the music industry before the pandemic for a little bit, and that was really cool. And I was doing booking around the country, some high level stuff, a lot of low level stuff. It was interesting, and that's whenever I learned to produce and engineer. And so this April, I did play like a little tiny little show, but this April I'll be kind of doing like my first show back officially. And but I've been producing all this music like in my bedroom,
Uh-oh.
beats. Yeah, I know, right? So it's what I'm working on now is trying to get that stage performance and life back, because I miss that. And producing in your bedroom is awesome and really safe. And playing in front of people is like is the opposite of that. So, but it's a place I love. I got to
Yeah.
yeah, like I got to play a couple of things last year, and they were just enough for me to be like, oh, damn it, I should be doing this, kind of thing. And so I gave myself a deadline. I booked a show. I gave myself 6 months, and I've just been putting it off as much as I can. But what I'm trying to do now is blend kind of the production style that I've built up in the newer songs you've heard, blend that with the acoustic guitar that I love. So much like the intro to this podcast, it's awesome. I like that feeling. I like hearing the guitar, but I like big beats, and I like synths and stuff, and I like something that kicks a little bit. So I'm trying to blend my two worlds together and just be really open and honest, and also not overthink things. I think I've done a good job of like just making fun songs and having a good time with it, but I think you can flow a lot better when you just don't overthink. So my goal is to not overthink and just write some songs and play some shows and just get back in the world of playing live again. So that's where I'm at.
As a creative, I believe that we kind of go through peaks and valleys, and like you definitely sound like you've been through some. Is there anything that you have in mind, like specific for a next project? Like you said, you're trying to blend your two worlds. Is there something that like just has you jazzed, like, man, I'm working on this one track and I think it's going to be good, or I have this one idea and it's going to hit?
Oh man. Yes and no. I'll tell you one song I've been putting off that's a little brutal. So we'll dive in, but you'll like this story. So my buddy, he was he actually died. So that was the sad part. I actually almost died. You didn't know that, but I almost drowned. And there's something called,
I did not know that.
Yeah. So
Cool.
not many people know that. There's something called cold shock. So everybody out there, look it up, but it's dangerous in the mountain water coming off in your first hot day or whatever. Depending on your body, you can go into cold shock if you get in that water. So I did. And I almost died. Your body like shuts down and all this stuff. It's terrible. But then a month later, my buddy Jonathan, he actually drowned. What we think would be that. And it was tragic, but the night he died, right around the same time, I wrote this song, this acoustic song. I hadn't written on the guitar in years. I'd pick it up, but I'd never finished a whole song on the guitar. And I wrote this song, and I was like, what am I writing here? I was like, maybe I'll write a song to my grandma, which I was like, I've never done that, but she's getting older. I was like, okay, try, whatever, like, so, but I wrote this song, and it was, I started off kind of just talking about like, my grandma owns a little farm. So I was like, kind of paint a picture of a family farm back home. And then it was, the idea was, going to be like me writing a letter to her and her writing a letter to me. And, kind of this idea of gone too soon, was the chorus, gone too soon, gone to you. And it wasn't meant to be like somebody's gone, but it was meant to be the idea of like, I'm really far away from you, you're getting older, I'm kind of gone. And once you're gone, it's going to feel like it's too soon kind of thing. And just trying to write like a nice letter to my grandma, something like that. But what I didn't know is that, in the same hour, my buddy had drowned. So I woke up the next day to find that out. And I listened to this song that I finished. I finished the whole song. I recorded it, a really rough demo of it. And I was like, oh shit, this is weirdly accurate for my friend. And so, I sent it to some of my buddies, and they were just like, oh, okay, all right. And the family knows about it, but I've just been putting it off, dude, because I'm just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to record this. So I know I want to do that one because it's done. It has some really deep meaning. It has some kind of magic to it, with whatever happened that night. And, so I want to do that. And then I just want to pair, maybe 4 or 5 songs with that and kind of just I like I like producing, and I love, you know, the music you hear. I love if you're cranking any music in your car and it's sounding huge. I love that. But I also love like being on stage with just a guitar and seeing what I can do with people. And so like I want to be like raw mixed in with those things and just try to be really vulnerable, which is weird to say, but that's what I want to do. So we'll see. I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah.
It does. I mean, number one, sorry that you lost a friend. You know, we both have dealt with that prior in a different
Yeah.
way. But I mean, I think that you appreciate it, you know, just as much as I do, where like somehow a creative moment hits you and you can either steer away from it or you can steer into it. And it sounds like, you know, you were doing the right thing at the right time. And,
Mm.
you know, maybe it'll provide a little bit of healing and closure for you on a situation. I don't know if you knew this or not, but like uh, when I was in Wyoming and you know the news came out about Travis, like you were the one to let me know.
Oh,
Like that I had no idea. And then
dang.
like your text message hit me and I was like, "Wait, what?" And then I text somebody else like, "What's going on?" And then like almost immediately it was like the floodgates open where like everybody started texting me
Mm,
like Travis is gone, man. Like you know, we don't know details yet, but we just know he's gone. And I was
dang.
like, wow. And you
I
know,
I did not.
so
I didn't
like
remember it
I
was
can
me, man.
imagine.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's what it sticks out to me. And I remember being, you know, trapped, you know, in Wyoming and the armpit of America of Laramie. And, you know, like I couldn't leave school. They were like, if you go, he's not a family member. So if you go, you're going to hour out. And that means that like, if you hour out, that means you have to start the whole semester
That's
over
so messed
again.
up.
And I was like, I don't know what to do. So I like, yeah, it was terrible. And I had no idea what, you know, what I was going to do. So
Mm,
like, I just remember, you know, thinking at least all you guys are there and, you know, everybody's able to support each other. So like, you know, the fact that you wrote music in that moment,
mm,
that's always going to be, you know, a sticking point. And I think anybody that like knows the story now, if they hear that song, that's going to be a sticking point. And I think that, you know, you definitely should release it and it definitely, you know, needs to fall on some people's ears because
yeah.
the feeling of that, I guarantee is going to resonate with a lot.
I appreciate that, man. You know, yeah, and Travis comes up all the time, which is interesting, mostly because of that tattoo, you know. So, but
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy. I remember you going to Wyoming and all that, and that was a cold place to be, dude. But yeah, that was tragic. We
Yeah.
lost Travis.
Negative 60 degrees was not fun.
No, dude, not cool, not cool. But yeah, I think about Travis a decent amount, man. I don't know about you, but I still think about it because in our life, you know, I don't. The movie theater has this weird place in our lives where I'm like,
Yeah.
what was
Yeah.
that place? That we did some crazy stuff. Life was so weird. We were a bunch of kids pretty much and just having a blast doing dumb things, but it was a good group of people and we all got pretty close and all loved cinema and art, you know, which I appreciate too. So that was a really, really fun and unique time. So I
Yeah.
still remember Travis like coming out of that the door down by the soda machine at the far end, and he just like come out and just like whatever stare at you or whatever. That was pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah. Do some Travis stuff.
Yeah, do some Travis stuff. Talk about girls.
Yeah, man. I think that, yeah, exactly. I think, you know, that for me, I think of Travis a lot, actually. It's one of those things for me where like, you know, the tattoo, it's a constant reminder. And a lot of times, you know, doing stuff like this podcast or doing stuff like my books, I know he would have been one of those people that's like super supportive of it and super like,
Yeah.
hell yeah, let's go. Yeah, I want to help you. I want to do something, you know? And I think that like, you know, like you said, the theater was just such a weird place that like the people that like I used to love that every party, no matter what kind of party it was, would end up a theater party because we all just like had that same energy.
That's That's so funny. I tell stories from the movie theater all the time, man. I'm just like, people are like, "What was your first job?" And I'm like, "Oh, let me tell you about my job and all the crazy weird shit we did." And like, dude, one day Travis and John set up you were probably there, dude. I bet you were there. They set up like this obstacle course for bikes or something in the movie theater, like not in a theater, like in the like lobby area. And they were like, it was like a cardboard bike ramp or something, and they were like jumping. I was like, what is this place? Like my boss is like built an obstacle course. Dude, that place was hilarious.
Oh,
Yeah, that was fun.
I found out recently. I don't know if you knew this, but you remember that night we were drinking whiskey?
Well, oh wait, where? At your house or like?
No, at the theater at work. We were both clocked in and we were drinking that Jack.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So, I don't know if you remember Rachel, the like tiny little, Rachel, innocent. I found out that like that was the first time she'd ever had alcohol. We were such bad influences.
Whoa. Sorry, Rachel. Was Rachel
right?
was
Yeah, I was like, oh, I feel so bad.
I can't remember.
Yeah, she was.
Okay. Okay, yeah, that's pretty funny, man. Whatever, dude. That place was crazy. I just remember like liquor was hidden in the buns, all sorts of stuff, dude. Jose was doing crazy stuff. Yeah, and we were the only movie theaters, so everybody had to come to us. That was hilarious.
Right. Oh man, so many good memories. And I think that like some of the friendships that I have that are the longest came from that place, and I think that it serves a good purpose. Back again, we're gonna probably go off on tangents, but what work are you most proud of? Yeah, exactly, right. What work are you the most proud of?
From music, man. Well, one that comes up a lot that people bring up is Moving On. I'm pretty proud of that one, man. Like the production and the end, and mostly I was really proud of playing it live. Like we did something slightly different live that made it more intense. And I always played electric guitars live, which people were thrown off by. I don't know why, but that was like the most intense feeling, and I freaking loved playing that so much. Like just like. It went from like this kind of soft song that's like kind of moving, trucking along, and all of a sudden we just hit them with like this intense, like super heavy drums, super heavy guitars. And, I would go up an octave on all sorts of things and just try to be like, I would be screaming, dude, so that was always my favorite feeling live, was like showing people like in the studio, I could record kind of loud, but like live, I could really like belt it and scream. And that was like my favorite feeling. And then as far as like the newer stuff goes, I like Right Here, just because that was the first time I fully engineered myself, and I had worked really hard to learn that much to get that far, dude. Like I was living in Pennsylvania for like I don't know 2 years, and I didn't make friends at all. Like I just worked, and I went home and I produced for like hours, dude, learning how to record and do anything I could figure out. So I was like this loner dude, and I put out this song and nobody had heard music from me in a couple years or something. And I just dropped this thing that's so different, because I wanted to make, like, truthfully, like, since you're here, I wanted to make like some sci-fi pop or something. Like I didn't really know what I was doing, but I wanted to make I was like, I'm going to make like a sexy sci-fi pop song. Like that's what I want to make. And I was really proud of that, just because I'd worked really hard to make something sound professional, and people like blew it up. It was kind of crazy. And I was like, oh, cool. So I can just make this all myself now, which is awesome. And that felt really relieving and awesome as an artist. Like you love working with people, and that's so important. But whenever you find out that you can record and put out music all yourself, you're like free. All of a sudden you're like, oh my God. It's probably like you like putting out this book. You're just like, I don't need to wait on things. I can just go, that feels so good. I think most artists are doing that these days because of technology getting better, but I think everybody should be trying to do that.
I like that. I think, and that's definitely like, again, like nail on the head with the creative thing. I would love to get like backed by a full publisher and have the full weight of some big company pushing my book, because like, that's the goal. But like, still love that my stuff is out there regardless of what happens. I've made it work. I found the materials, I found the potentials, and I took the jump and the risk. And I think that like, I think it's Keith Urban who said it, but like, he's like, if I'm fine with failing if I tried, and I'm fine with being a starving artist if it means that I'm going to get to my goal. So like, let's just start the starving,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
I was like, think that when it comes to like releasing creativity, it's like, I just got to get through with it. It doesn't matter whether, I'm bleeding everything into it and I'm sitting here in my house. Also, side note, we're going to say this probably a lot on this podcast. As a Caps fan, Pennsylvania sucks, everything about it. As a Marylander, Pennsylvania sucks, everything about it.
yeah.
But,
I'm cool with that. Sorry, PA friends.
we're just going to skip over that one. But, yeah. So, it's just like one of those things where we're gonna, just do what we have to do. And that's what Homes Made is kind of about, is like, let's just take the risk. Let's do the whole, shebang, and not worry about,
Yeah.
the consequences of it. We're just going to do it.
Yeah, man. And I mean, I think for people starting, like I didn't really, whenever I first started, I literally was not thinking about anybody listening, because I don't think I thought that was a possibility. Like I was playing in a band that I hoped people listened to, but I didn't think I would. I don't think Spotify existed. So at the time, it was just like, cool, I made some songs, sick. Like these sound cool. And then one day, my buddy's dad was like, "So what are you gonna do with these?" And I was like, "Oh, I hadn't even." What do you mean? Like I hadn't thought about it. So, but I encourage, like, yeah, think about those things, think about the follow through. But if you're a beginner listening, like what you're saying, Matt, is like the most important thing is just to do it, man. If you sit and you, like, sometimes I'll sit for days. I'm just like, oh, I need to make something, but that's a waste of time, man. It's like you could have made 10 things, maybe 9 of them were crap, but the 10th one might have been amazing. You're going to be proud of yourself if you just put in the time. And my proudest moments were whenever I put in the time, dude, which I'm not always good at, but if you put in the time, you're going to be happy no matter what. Because I feel like you and I, and other artists, it's like you're happy if you just tried. And maybe you have to go, tell Courtney, like, well, I didn't write anything good today, but you know what, whatever. At least you sat down and wrote. And I think that's what people need to do, man. And like, don't be afraid, and find your friends that pump you up, man, because they'll tell you. They might not actually tell you if it sucks, but like, find people that pump you up, because you can get better. You will make crap. That's inevitable. But like, find people who pump you up. Like you buying your book and seeing it on my shelf. It's pumping you up to see like that purchase come through. You telling me you listen to songs in your Jeep pumps me up.
Absolutely.
And I'm like, all right, I got to do this. So like, you've got to have those people that pump you up, man. If you're just totally by yourself, like, I don't know, that's hard.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. And I think that, when people tell me that, like I said, I always like try and navigate around the like term success and, what success means as far as being a writer. And when people ask me what successful is, like, yeah, would I like to sell 1,000,000 books? Would I like to make money and be able to like make a living writing? Absolutely. But like, what success to me, like what I find successful is like, if I could stand in a group of people and like have them ask about my writing, you know what I mean? Like be like, yo,
Yeah.
I really liked this character. I really liked this line. That was so good. And those moments to me like happen more frequently than like I care to recognize, I think. And I think, every time somebody tells me, man, like that was wild, like that story was crazy, I don't know where you came up with that. I think it needs to translate to, especially new people starting out, when they let somebody read their stuff, that needs to translate from like self-criticism to, yo, man, like that was somebody that is appreciating your work and they're seeing it with a completely different focus and lens than you are, or hearing it with completely different ears in your case, and like you said, you got to find the people that pump you up. I think that's the most important. I want to be out here supporting everybody I can, because at the end of the day, like that's what you got. Like if I support you and, it makes you feel good, and I get you, 2 steps closer to recording a song, or 2 steps closer to, like feeling this line that you've been working on.
Yeah.
That means I did my job for the day. I don't care about anything else.
I love that. Yeah, let's go. We're in the podcast now. Yeah, this is great. Yeah, man, that's dude, man.
Yeah.
Those are the best friends I have, are those people that are like, hey, what are you doing? get it going. Come on now. I love that. I love being that for people too, honestly. Like, I love pumping people up towards their dreams, because like, people need fuel, man. People need fuel. And if you're just doing it by yourself, sometimes you're like, well, I'm out of fuel, I'm done, you know. But it takes one friend just being like, go a little further, you got this, to write that next line, to write that next song, whatever it is. Yeah. So yeah, surround yourself with those people. Find them, man. Find them.
I think, you know, not letting them go is a big thing too. Like, I know for me, like, I don't know why we have that vibe where like, I'll reach out to you and you'll be like, dude, I needed that energy. Or you'll reach out to me and I'm like, fuck, like you sent me that picture of you writing on one of the pages for my book.
Yeah.
And that I knocked out 2 whole chapters after that picture.
That's great, man. That's, I mean, yeah, that's what it's all about, dude. It's like, what else you gonna do? Like, yeah, you just got to find those people. And like, I love that, like, you're doing different things than I'm doing, you know, but we understand that we need that energy, you know. That's what's so fun about it.
That's what I get caught up in, like doing so many different things. And like, I have to remind myself that like, I do all these different things. And just because I'm not an expert at any of them doesn't mean that I'm not good at some of them, you know? And I think that like, I understand the creative space in a way that like, I make room for it for everybody else. And like, that's the whole point of the podcast is, you know, I want to get people on here that, you know, are creative or that have a voice or have something to say that might not be the conventional thing to say, because they deserve a voice too.
Yeah.
Their expression is just as important as ours. They just might not have a way to do that. And, you know, that's why we're doing this podcast. That's why we're jumping into it.
I love
you know
it.
What I mean?
I love it, man. It's great.
So I can tell you, as some might understand, you know, Tether's one of those songs that's just like one of my favorites. I don't know what it is about that beat, something, you know, it just hits me. And, you know, you generously letting us use it, like, that's no small thing to me. Like, I can't tell you how much I appreciate, you know, the fact that you're letting us use that song. You know, that creative energy, like we were just talking about, it brings me to like the right place, and to like know that like every time I hear an episode, and like every time an episode closes out, like that's what I'm going to hear. That's what it's going to be. You know, it's perpetuating that, like that energy. So I just wanted to take a moment and just like legit thank you, because like you said, you know, finding people that pump you up, like you definitely like pump me up. Another lyric, you know, that I just really like is, you know, I could drive around the world if you with me. And I feel like that fits into this.
Dude, I'm glad you brought that song up, because I love that song so much, man. And I feel like that song was all about just having a good vibe, you know, and like, I just was feeling so good, and also wanted other people to feel good. Like, there's something literal, like the literal version of the lyrics, like just driving around, enjoying the night. Like, that's something I love about, which I know you love too, but like, I love driving, dude. And I love like enjoying the time, but also that song was about like being with your person, being with your friend, whoever it is, and just going as far as you can, just enjoying life, you know. And it was cheesy feeling. I was like, am I really going to make a song about this? But like, sometimes you're just vibing and you're feeling good and you're just like, fuck it, man. But that was what it is, man. And I like that. That's cool that stuck out to you, because that was like a really fun line for me. I was like, you know what? I hope somebody like wakes up or gets their evening going with this song. So if that goal was accomplished, that's really cool, man.
So, I mean, I'm not going to like make it sound like people are knocking boots to your song, but I definitely reached over and grabbed Courtney's hand, roll into that when it came on the other day. Cause it was just like, yeah, man, like it's us against the world. And like, I could drive all the way around this bitch if you're with me.
Dude,
you know, can't wait till summer to, you know, have the doors off this Jeep and the top down, you know?
Yeah, that's cool, man. That is literally what it was made for. So just knowing like a friend is using it for that is really awesome to me. So I appreciate that greatly, man. That's really cool.
The bell is about to ring. If you want to drop us a voice message or simply ask a question, you can do that by clicking the link in the show notes below. Be sure to leave us a 5-star review. It helps more people find us. Theme music by KENZI. More music available on Spotify. Remember, every day is a class. Go learn something.